board setup would probably have to have some contact with the municipality with regard to funding. I can only tell you that the 4-town probate office that we have here, the CEOs get together and determine budgets, some of which is put aside for expenses that may not be anticipated. There's contingency, there is a separate capital. So all of that would probably come out in the budget process. So unless something blew up in the middle and there was an emergency appropriation, once the facility is set up, and I'm just going from experience on this probate thing, once the facility is set up, then there would be an annual plan, just as we do everything else. And if there was something that was needed, another chair, another microphone, a telephone, a monitor, that would go in the purchase, and then that would have to be authorized by each community as they fund this, or depending on how the dollars are generated with regard to the call volume. You know, in the example you saw, it was $1 a call. Now, if that cost to run the center is $1 a call, and that's inclusive of a contingency plan or a capital, savings account, that's probably how it would work. But we would have to budget. In other words, we have a budget. I'm not sure what our budget is for dispatch now. It's $350,000. There would be a budget for that to that entity.
Well, I'm just thinking down the road, what happens if 2 towns want to fund this and want it, and the 3rd town doesn't because of budgetary difficulties in getting that particular town's budget passed? Just
But they don't have.
something to think.
They won't have a dispatch service,
Well,
right? I mean,
Well-
They're feeding money into a separate governing board like SCARA. And if we don't give SCARA their money next year in our budget, if that gets denied, where's our trash going to go? And we are obligated by contract too, long-term contract. So, but good questions. But I'm sure that will come out with
so we think
feasibility.
about trying to finalize this and think about some of the potential problems.
I also think like the governance board is going to be flexible enough, to take a look at some directional things as far as expansion or moving, but big decisions are definitely going to have to come back to each of the municipalities, because let's say that we want to move into a direction that all 3 aren't comfortable with. I mean, that's why we want to maintain control over this, some of the day-to-day buying of things, and there's going to be a budget that's going to be approved by the governance, which is represented by each of the municipalities, and so there's oversight there. But big decisions, that's the governance board is only going to have so much power. Nothing is going to be moved into a direction that New London doesn't feel comfortable with, or East Lyme doesn't feel comfortable with. I mean, there's not going to be a hijacking of this service. We're really looking at setting up the governance board so it's efficient and it's taking care of business and responsible, but also so that the municipalities retain the control and direction and encouraging to grow or move, or all of those things are definitely
Well, that's not my issue. My issue is the town's city financing of this, and if one town or city can't get their budget passed,
sure,
then what happens to the funding for this and the payroll, etc.?
So each municipality is required by the state to have this service. It is up to the municipality how they want to provide the service, but we're all required to have it. So we can have our own, we can have it together. I mean, there's flexibility in there, but it is a requirement.
Well, you can have a very basic service, or you can have one that's more elaborate.
Well, I think what we could do is, I mean, that's a hypothetical problem that could very well manifest itself, and that's something that would have to be looked at, and how we would handle that. That's a discussion amongst the, this presentation is going next to Waterford, I believe, and then New London, or New London and then Waterford. So, you know, I'm sure what'll happen at the end of the day is once the questions and comments get solicited from all of the communities, you go back to the drawing board and they'll go, you know, either I'm sorry I asked that question, or, you know, here's what we gotta do is come up with the answer, and this is what we have to do. But understand that this is not the first time that a regional dispatch center has been undertaken. There are many that are operating, and a lot of these things we can draw on those experience and find out somebody must have experienced this problem once or twice before. So let's figure out what their answer was so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And if it works for us, we move forward. If it doesn't, you know, that's still a decision.
And I think, you know, we are unique, as so many people like to point out, in our part of the world where each town has its own entities. You look at vast reaches of this country with large county-based school systems, you don't see, because one town has been late in passing its budget, that the schools don't open. I mean, there is a way that this happens, as Paul said, and we learn from how other people implement it. A delay in one town doesn't mean that, you know, the sky has fallen and nobody's going to pick up the phone. So I think that's something to be addressed going forward, but I am assured, you know, I'm very confident that these issues, because the rest of the country seems to deal with them, can be dealt with here.
Paul, I don't know whether it was Lieutenant Mahoney or Steve maybe that pointed out that legislation has failed in the past, but eventually the state is going to put some type of mandation or some type of force our hands in regionalization. I mean, it's
like they
getting
did.
Closer and closer every time.
It's like they did with probate.
Yeah,
You know, they told us
exactly.
this.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but any questions? We're on what, 11, 12? And then there was a series of quotations and general information, charts and things on the back. Do you have questions on any of those, or?
I don't at the present time.
Okay. So I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to again, revisit this in terms of questions and comments. There's no further comments from the board?
No, I'd just like to thank the committee for the amount of time that you spent on this. And I know there was a lot of time spent and a lot of input, and I hope that you won't take our questions as being indicative that we would not support this, but obviously this is a new venture, and we'd like to be helpful, getting the questions, getting the answers.
Just as we've done along the way in all of our presentations, we've learned and morphed our presentation as we've gone along. We've learned tonight, and we'll do so accordingly in our implementation plan. So we thank you for what you guys have said. It helps us along the way.
Good. And I think not only, I failed to mention, I don't know if you mentioned, that not only are you making presentations here amongst the councils and the boards, but you've taken it to the local emergency centers, fire departments, and things as well, and you're going to continue to reach out to gather more input, you know, from the people that actually have their hands in it every day. So I think that's an important part of it. We thank you for everything you're doing, and look forward to seeing it again. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Do we want to take a minute, or you want to just move into with my apologies to Mr. Lukowski?
I'm sure he enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.
Well, before we leave the topic, I would like to ask that you arrange a tour for us, for the board.
I have written down, I'm going to work with the committee to get a tour for, I think would be important to see all of the different facilities, perhaps Waterford, Montville, go back and revisit East Lyme and see how that's done as we've improved that center over time, and talk about that. So I think that's a great idea.
Are we going to expect a report on the possibility of Montville?
Well, all of that is kind of moving forward in many different directions. We can get a report if you want to look at just what's happened. I know that Forrest was here with Chris, but I don't see them sitting there. They had worked on that. They had given me a summary sheet
Okay.
that we can have. So
All right. I was anticipating a report on that, and at one point we were considering also the possibility of Lyme and Old Lyme. Is that off? Is that off the table?
That was for a different subject. That could be further down the road. So that's probably off the table for now.
All right. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then the next item on the agenda would be the board and commission appointment. We have one this evening for Harold Clark of 76 Giants Neck Road, Niantic, to serve on the Wetlands Commission as an alternate for the town of East Lyme through January 8th, 2018.
So moved.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Thank you. Next item is the special appropriation for the Smith-Harris Curator. We've talked about this in a couple of steps. Mr. Lukowski has written a short memo to us asking that this be put on the agenda, and this would, money coming from the Friends of Smith-Harris to fund the position for the remainder of 2014. You found this to be a successful program, and everybody's on board with it. I see that you've passed out a program that I'm sure has been enabled as a result of having this curator here, the magic of the old curiosity shop, which is the story of a young woman as she seeks the truth behind the brooch that she finds among items in a curiosity shop. That's on January 25th. The show times available are 5:45 and 7:15, is that correct? And the other two show times have already been sold out. It looks like they're about half an hour show time. 45-minute show time. Tickets are very reasonably priced, and they're available at the Smith-Harris House. So this is one of the benefits that having the curator position go through, and we would have to send this through to the Board of Finance for their approval, and it would need a town meeting because it exceeds 10% of their budget. So Mr. Lukowski and the commission members know that when we have our next town meeting, we will just include this in, because you're looking ahead a little bit here. Is that correct? Did I do all right? You did very well. Okay. So do we have a motion and a second on this?
I'll move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $2,500 in the 2013-14 budget as follows. $2,320 in Department 134 Smith-Harris Commission to account 0101-134 100-415 Museum Curator, and $180 in the account of 0101-114 100-121 FICA Medicare, and forward to the Board of Finance for their approval.
Second.
Motion is made and second. Is there a discussion? And there is a note that this will require a town meeting. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstained? Okay, motion carries. The next item of unfinished business is the police committee discussion. I did have a short conversation with Mr. Wilson about this. He and Mr. Siri, I don't know if you have any updates, but he indicated that he wanted to put this off, so I don't know.
We should obviously wait for Rob to be here since we're working together on this one.
Okay, so we'll move forward on that once the two chairs work on it. Then we have ex officio reports.
Zoning did not meet last week due to the snowstorm. I did attend the first meeting of the East Lyme Library Board on Monday. Basically, everything is going well. The budget is on track. The director, Lisa Timothy, reported that she'd met with the first selectman to discuss the budget going forward, mentioned the need for some capital improvements, especially painting. The large parts of the library have not been painted in over 15 years. Very successful sale of the used books. The librarian in charge of that, I think, has raised something like $26,000 in just under $24,000 over the past 6 or 7 years in used books, which goes back into the budget for further book purchases. We're voting on the director's evaluation process, and also in conjunction with Lisa's discussions with the first selectman, we'll be developing a 5 to 10 year plan dealing with the direction we feel the library should be going in terms of providing the kind of service that the town is going to want in the future. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Siri.
Haven't had any meetings yet. Next week they all start back up.
Ms. Hardy?
Thank heavens for the holidays.
Parks and Rec postponed their meeting, and I think Youth Services is coming up in a couple of weeks also.
Okay, in your packet this evening, you have a copy of a letter that was sent to me from Attorney O'Connell regarding a change in the budget process with regard to the funding of the Board of Education and a modification of the state statute. It It lists some additional things there. I put it there for your consideration. Pay particular attention to section 1 and the 3 paragraphs that are there, because that will change the dynamics of how we look at the Board of Education funding over this year, and that I believe was effective October 1st, 2013. So I put that there for your consideration. You may have also read that the Bond Commission for the State of Connecticut is approving a $200,000 open space fund, $100,000 which will be earmarked to 2 different properties. I don't know that this board has acted on those 2 properties in a formal manner, so we'd like to move that forward for discussion now that the state is interested in helping us. That was a request I made of Representative Jutilla along with Mike Dunn. So we'll bring that information forward to get into the process. There is no hurry on that. There's no deadline. It's a long time. I did email out to you earlier today the report from Fuss and O'Neill regarding the Department of Correction and the fuel leak on that property. I printed out a copy for you, Mr. Nickerson. You have trouble opening my attachments on there. We have continued the budget review process, as Ms. Cheeseman indicated, and are meeting with departments. That is an ongoing situation. I attended a number of things at East Lyme telethon. The kids put on a telethon as they do annually. This benefited Safe Futures. They did a great job there, and as they do, all our high school kids are just better than wonderful, as you can see by our astute audio-visual technological assistant down the end there. So we appreciate supporting that. I attended the holiday luncheon at the Senior Center. We swore in a new officer, Officer Hull, retired from the Saybrook Police Department and has come on board. He has 25 years with the Saybrook Police, served recently as sergeant, and we welcome him to our department. I did attend the Eagle Court of Honor for both Ethan Long and George Sisson last Saturday, and it's really gratifying to see what these young kids can accomplish. Gary Gaishel and I met with Solarize Connecticut, which is a program sanctioned by the state of Connecticut that will allow the community to offer, through a consultant of the state, I guess, individual solar systems of a certain size for home use at reasonable rates and subsidized rates. So we're looking into whether that's a possibility or not. Through the Council of Governments, we had a meeting with the state legislators and all the delegation. We had a good comment about what we would move forward in terms of potential legislation, modification, or changes that the municipalities would like. I bring that up today. One of the issues would be not only the issue that you heard this evening with regard to the language, changing the statute, allowing for the entity to exist for dispatch, but also the teacher evaluation program, which is increasing the budget to the Board of Education, and that seems to have some legs about postponing that, and that's a $250,000 to $450,000 event, depending on the amount of administrators that would have to be hired to oversee this new evaluation project. And that's something that Dr. Lombardo has talked to me about, trying to do what we can to get rid of that. So, especially given the way the school system operates here, we have a wonderful group of teachers and administrators. And today I attended the Law Enforcement Council holiday lunch, which was a nice gathering of all the local police officials in the area, and it was a nice luncheon. And then finally, I'll share with Dr. Lombardo, his father died recently in the last few days, and we wish him all our best as he suffers through that loss. So that's my report. Any questions or comments?
Could you at the next meeting give us oh, you're not going to be here at the next meeting, an update on the solar park, the progress, whether the problems that the residents had spoken about have been addressed? I can give you what I know now, and as you're right, I will be in Nashville for the next
meeting at a healthcare seminar, looking at a different
You
model.
sure you're not gonna be at the Grand Ole Opry?
I didn't want to tell you that, but I will be performing at the Grand
Oh,
Ole
God.
Opry.
Oh, no.
I
It's a
knew
new
it.
singing.
Clog
Mr. Ricks and
dancing,
I will
right?
be singing at the, we have a country music thing we're going to be doing.
I
Yeah. Will-
expected
will
you'd be
Mr.
doing the
Nickerson
clog
be on drums?
dancing.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's a healthcare symposium going on down there with a new healthcare model that may be beneficial to municipalities, especially given the effects that may come down the line with the Affordable Care Act. So we're looking into that and trying to move ahead a little bit and be prepared. So I won't be here for that. But I have been traveling up and down Walnut Hill Road. A lot of those trees have been cleared. Some have opened up some properties, which I imagine some people are not happy about. But it looked to me like the new telephone poles have all been, or utility poles, I guess, have all been installed to be replaced, and the cross arms on them I thought were going to be larger than they are. They don't seem to be as obtrusive, and it really, because the poles crisscross the road and it's not just a straight road going up, it really kind of offsets the effect of the trees. Driving up to the solar park a few times, they do have a lot of the posts in, and they've installed some of the panels. I think the lion's share of the noise was left when they were banging the posts in. They had a machine that did that, metal on metal. I think that was noisy, but I did not hear from any of the residents with regard to any noise. So I think once the general construction was done, and we had that meeting with the contractors, I think they worked hard to resolve the issue. So I've not heard from many of them. I think now at the end of the day, it'll be incumbent to the siting council to have their inspector to come out and make sure that these contractors built the plan to the specifications as required by that, and that would include some trees for buffer and things like that. So we want to make sure we have that. So that'll be most likely be the next thing.
Thank you. And could you either have, I don't know how long Stevens is going to be gone, but could we get an updated list of the vacancies that are still existing on boards and commissions?
Yes, yes, we will. I have just a few at this point in time. I believe with this one this evening, we have a second vacancy for the Ledge Light Health District that we still haven't been able to fill. And I believe the Smith-Harris Commission has 3 that I heard you were bringing 2 names forward. Is that true or not true?
I've got one more name.
One more name. So because I had the number 2 vacancy. So with your one name, 3. So we
Okay,
need
and-
2 on Smith-Harris,
And
and I
I
don't.
have the new high school librarian who's interested.
Okay.
She's unaffiliated. She doesn't want to be affiliated.
Okay.
She wants to remain unaffiliated.
I'm reminded of W.C. Fields, who said he would join no club that would have him as a member.
Yeah.
So I can
Marx.
see how she would.
Groucho Marx
Was
did that.
that-
That was
Groucho.
Groucho.
Was that Groucho?
Yeah.
It was
Um,
WC.
Shows you what
didn't
I
wanna
know.
be
But she would
affiliated.
like to attend a meeting first.
Okay.
So I'm
So
have that.
well, maybe we can provide the information to
And,
Mr. Lukowski for an invite.
I might also have someone who would be
Gotcha.
interested in Ledge Light.
What's that?
I might also have someone who would be interested in Ledge Light.
Okay, I
Who
did
was-
speak to Joyce about
Okay.
that. I'm trying to talk her into that. She'd be good.
All right. Well, this person is a nurse,
Okay.
so I don't know if that would be a conflict.
I don't know either.
All right. All right. I'll pursue that.
Probably not.
I think we can talk to Kent about that.
All right.
But we're down to just a few, so I'll get that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions or comments? Any public comment? Anybody would like to speak? Mr. Ricks?
Bill Ricks, 8 Islander Court. First off, it's no secret, I'm against this regional dispatch. Many of the volunteers in town are against it, okay? I don't even know where to begin. Our first problem is we have our own radio problems here in town that should be fixed before we even decide about spending money elsewhere. We recently had a active shooting scenario at the high school. Lo and behold, which we knew all along, none of the fire department radios work in the East Lyme High School. None. It doesn't happen. I can be standing from here to that guy over there, the radios don't work. And nobody seems to want to address this. but we're all set to spend thousands of dollars to move it. It's not gonna help our problem. Also, during their presentation, they had mentioned about the IMC and the CAD system, how the town will be receiving that money. No, you won't. That belongs to the East Lyme Ambulance. The Ambulance Association paid for the CAD system and the IMC. And I'm going to tell you, damn it, that right now, the Ambulance Association really doesn't look like it's gonna fund that. I know I'm going to campaign and champion for it not to fund it again. So if you're thinking about going to this community, regional dispatch, you're gonna have to fund the CAD system and the IMC. The other thing that, and I didn't hear it addressed, is because they don't get into the labor issues, is who's gonna set the pay rates for these dispatchers? I mean, our tax base is different from Waterford's and different from Montville's. Nobody seems to, everybody doesn't want to touch it, but somebody's got to do it. And who's going to be our representative to say, hey, this is how much we can afford? You know, I didn't see that addressed anywhere. Also, and I know I'm jumping the gun here, but, and maybe it was in your packet, I can't remember, it's been such a long time since I read it. The sewer alarms in Channel 22, that's run out of our dispatch center, was that addressed? Of who's gonna take care of that now? I don't know. The labor issues, I don't know, I just think that you're going to be voting on something you have no idea how much it's gonna cost. And that scares me. That scares me a lot, because you might end up with paying, I know the Waterford dispatchers make more than the East Lyme dispatchers. So you automatically, whatever those part-timers were, are now gonna be absorbed into that full-timer that you're gonna be paying over there. So I don't see where you're gonna save a whole lot of money. And for a lousy $250,000 one-time deal, that's what you're looking at. We've got a fine dispatch center, granted, it should be fine-tuned. It should be fine-tuned. But all we're doing is giving our problems to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Anyone else like to speak to the board under public comment? Sir?
Evening, everyone. My name is Jim Shake. I reside 129 Pennsylvania Avenue here in town.
Good evening, sir.
You know, I've listened to the committee's report, and I've followed this fairly close since the inception of looking into regionalization. You know, the committee did a great job in presenting a document and why it all would make sense, but as everybody knows, there's another side to the coin. And we have a lot of things that we have to look about here when it comes to regionalization. You know, they talked about the grant money, $250 per municipality to get into this. One-time shot, that's what you get. All right, then I understand there's going to be some funds regionally that will be awarded yearly for the dispatching. You know, I don't know if the money's gonna dry up, that funding's gonna dry up somewhere. That's an unknown, like a lot of this is. At the end of the day, the municipality's still gonna be paying for some type of dispatching, which I guess you really do have in place already in your existing municipality. You know, Mr. Siri commented about the, without using any other euphemistic term, nightmare issues that have happened with the regionalization of the state police.